Page reports an unlikely alliance between state labor and coalition ministers fights school funding changes. An unlikely alliance has been forged between Victorian and New South Wales education ministers from opposite sides of politics, banding together to fight Turnbull government changes to school funding. In a sign of the simmering tension between the state and federal government on school funding, Victorian Labour Education Minister Steve Merlin and the New South Wales coalition counterpart Adrian Piccoli held a joint press conference in Melbourne on Friday to warn the Turnbull government against abandoning the final 2 years of the Gonski school funding deal. I quote, "We know a needs-based funding makes a difference. This is not an argument over politics. It's an argument over policy and an argument over what is the best interest of the children. It comes as state and territory education ministers prepare to meet again next month to thrash out a new 4-year school funding model to replace the former Labour government's Gonski agreements." While the New South Wales government has committed to funding the entire 6-year Gonski agreement, Victoria has refused to say whether it will commit to the final 2 years. But Mr. Piccoli said he knew the Victorian government would find a full agreement, although Mr. Merlino remained tight-lipped on the plan. Here is another quote. "The Turnbull government will be working to ensure that the funding is distributed fairly and according to need so that the schools currently delivering valuable programs can continue to do so," says the Federal Education Minister Simon Birmingham. And finally, the Union Federal President Corinna Haythorpe said, "It is a great sign for our students that the education ministers from the two biggest parties have come together and made a bipartisan stand against these cuts, as they are not acceptable." So once again, we have two parties on the state level coming against the Turnbull government's cuts. Now, for those that do not know, the Turnbull government cuts are primarily the average level cuts made 2 years ago under the 2014 budget. They cut a lot of stuff such as welfare, healthcare for people, education, even the NBN network. Altogether, though, Mr. Turnbull, despite saying that he would put a new change in the policy of the Liberal coalition, has refused to do so. And now we have more proof that the people, or at least the government of its two largest states, are against what is happening here. So what does this tell you? Altogether, it tells you that Turnbull is quite ineffectual to his right wing of the party. It also shows that the federal government is very conservative in how to touch with the users or the people of Australia. It shows that there's still bipartisanship hope in Australia, as the Gonski School funding initiative is very popular. And altogether, it also shows that Mr. Turnbull, our current Prime Minister, has not done anything. So what do I take away from this? Because I follow a motive. You cannot criticize someone if you do not if you cannot do anything better or do it in a better way. Now, what would I recommend is the Gonski school funding be maintained at the very least, because it's quite popular, as we can see here. And once the Gonski school funding initiative continues on for at least another 6 years, we increase it or help increase the lower class or the bottom quarter of Australia's school. But altogether, this is not going to happen. So while there is quite a lot of hope for on a state level, I don't think that this will be helpful, that the government will do anything, and they will continue to do so on these cuts. If you look at the omnibus bill, which was produced about a few months ago, you will also notice that Labour will not do anything, despite their campaign promises. So we're stuck in this hard situation where the two largest states and the two parties on the state level are against further cuts and further cuts to school funding, which are needed, of course. We need to fix our broken school system, and our government refusing to do anything at all. So altogether, I guess we're screwed. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry about this, but I guess it's true. Well, thank you all.